carcasses of these animals, so as you can probably tell, we don't really process the food in any way. We don't take the bones out of it, we don't take the fur off of it. The reason we don't process it is there is no point. Devils are a whole carcass feeder. These guys eat bones and they eat fur and they eat everything else in between. So there is very little point to me spending half of my day skinning possums when throwing in a whole possum is actually a far more accurate representation of a natural diet of the devil. The most processing that we're really doing is we are often butchering the carcasses. We do that so that we can control the presentation and the amount. It's obviously important that devils get enough food in here. They have better breeding success, they live longer if they're in good body condition, but also it's actually important that devils don't get too much food either. Because they are scavengers, they are very opportunistic. Hey? Generally not. As you can see, they have very little interest in me, generally. I'm seen as a bringer of food, so obviously when I jump in here, as you saw, I kind of get accosted, but it's not because they're seeing me as the food, they just know that I have it with me. So there's a degree of curiosity and inquisitiveness there. But yeah, as you can see, they're not interested in eating me whatsoever, and you certainly have no risk out on that side of the fence getting attacked by devils. These guys here in reality are, you know, the biggest difference between them and out there is the fact that they'll sit around like this. You could wave a raw steak around outside your camper all you like. A wild devil will not come and eat out of your hand like this. This is a learned behaviour. These are two devils that have been in here since they were born. We've known them since they were this big, and yeah, they don't see me as a threat whatsoever, which is why they're pretty happy just to sit nearby. But yeah, in the wild, a devil won't come anywhere near you. They're going to run away quicker than you can say. Yes, there are. She's just over there sleeping.
Oh, really?
So
the girl's missing out again.
The girl's missing out, but I hazard a guess. I fed in here late last night, and she actually was the dominant one around the food. So chances are she's just not that hungry today. So she's going to let them tussle it out, and she'll probably sneak up a bit later in the feed and steal what she wants. But no, she doesn't seem too fussed about competing heavily. But she was certainly in amongst them yesterday, so she's not going to starve, that's for sure. So yeah, these guys here will typically be a bit like a garbage disposal unit on legs, quite kind of opportunistic feeders. They can eat anywhere in the wild. They've been recorded consuming up to 40 to 50% of their body weight in a sitting. So for an adult male, that could be as much as 5 kilos of meat in 20 minutes. So they're a bit like a garbage disposal unit on legs. So we just have to be mindful of that when we're feeding them, because if you do throw 5 possums in here, they'll have a fair crack at trying to eat them a lot of the time, and they'll get fat if they get fed too much too consistently. So yeah, we do have to kind of modify the amount.
So they can their teeth break down the bone as well?
Yeah. So as I said, it's the reason we don't really bother processing it, is because they eat all of that stuff. Devils have and you'll probably hear it soon, maybe, if he decides to really chow down on that piece, but devils have the strongest jaws on the planet per kilo of body weight. That second part's really important. People often tend to assume when people say they have the strongest jaws that they have stronger jaws than crocodiles, and that's not the case. It's per kilo of body weight. So for their size, they cannot be beaten. You're looking at a jaw strength, bite pressure there, of around 1,000 pounds per square inch. So that jaw strength would typically be found on a 40 or 50 kilogram animal, like a large dog. These guys weigh 8 or 9 kilos. So for a small animal, a lot of strength in those jaws. It's probably about 10 times stronger than the human jaw. So if they were to grab a hold of you, you'd certainly feel it. You'd get a nice, lovely bruise. It's generally what happens. But by weight, an 8 kilogram animal is not going to be able to subdue something as big as a person, which is why they're naturally fearful of people. We're not perceived as food because we're way too big an animal to be perceived that way.
Are these ones too old to breed? Or?
Actually, we've got Windermere over here is 4, so she potentially will breed next year, but she's actually approaching what we consider to be old age now. Devils are in the wild only live to about 5, so in captivity